Hi, in today's video, I'd like to share with you how I stay calm in the age of noise. So, we live in a world where everything is constantly vying for our attention. We live in this attention economy where everyone is trying to get ahead of each other, then endless competition where you're trying to be more rich, more successful, more followers, more likes, more views, more material possession than the person next to you. And how do you find calm and how do you stay sane in a world that is so noisy and constantly full of so much clutter, not just mentally, but physically as well? Whenever you reach out to your phone, there's a million apps and notifications that's trying to get your attention. And then the moment you try to connect with your friends on different communication apps or social media platforms, not only is it not doing the best job in connecting you and your friends and the loved ones, but for example, I've got a public account on Instagram. It is often more of a place for work and noise than it is where I can truly connect with myself, my close ones, or find calm. So the question is, how do you stay calm in a noisy world? How do you stay calm and sane and align with yourself, not to be carried away by the craziness of the world, but actually to find yourself, to reconnect with yourself, or even to begin understanding yourself a little better? The ironic thing is, we live in a world that's ever more connected, yet we're feeling increasingly disconnected from each other. If you look at all the identity conflicts in the world, if you look at how many new narratives there are in really segregating people and polarizing people, where it is really the opposite effect of what you think it would be with such a connected world that we live in. So I really subscribe to the concept of the pyramid of needs, where on top of it is self-actualization, and at the bottom of it is where you're really searching for survival. And what you can see in the current generation, where we're really so privileged to be in, is a lot of us are not fighting for survival anymore. But then, as we're not worried about putting meals on the table, we start to look into ways to distinguish ourselves from the world and finding the identity in us. And that often results in the idea of the self and the other. Because when there is such a prominent emphasis on the self, in order for the self and the ego to be more promoted upon, you need the other. And therefore, we see the world that is increasingly segregated. Of course, that can come in positive forms, but also negative forms, as we can see how it's been manifested in different parts of the world today. With the rise of AI, this is another thing that is adding on so much noise in our head. So I only just started using AI like Gemini or like other tools very recently. I've been introduced to it before, but I never really saw it as a daily assistant that I can use or that I can go to for everything. But anyway, I started using it. I find it very helpful. But I can also see that an abuse of it, where you use it too much, it can really eats away your ability to analyze, your ability to be creative, your ability to think for yourself, your ability to have independent thinking. It was only last night that I realized the relationship I have with AI should be not them thinking for me, but I should be prompting them to make me think more. So for example, I was thinking that I can ask AI to ask me certain questions so then I can have a more critical or analytical thinking. Because it's so easy to fall into the trap of using AI and getting into the loop and laziness of just wanting the AI to give you all the answers. And we can see this huge evolution of how, ever since the introduction of Google and the internet, people can just search for information in a click away. Whereas back in the days when people had to search for the meaning of a word, they will have to go to a library to look at dictionaries or encyclopedias, or actually read different books to get different information. Needless to say, we live in such a privileged time where we do have these tools that's so close to us and that we can get instant gratification from. But this is where we have to be truly careful of how it can take away the humanness from us. The rise of AI is also causing a lot of fear. and uncertainty in our hearts and minds as humans, because of course we're going to be scared of how they're going to take our jobs away, what kind of industries or careers are going to become obsolete, especially for children today. What do they have to be prepared for, really? Because the growth of AI, it is not linear. The way that it grows, you have no idea how it's going to be in 5 years' time or even 3 years' time. We live in a world of so much uncertainty at the moment that there is even more noise in our head. That's why today I wanted to talk about how do you stay calm in the age of noise. And really staying calm, I also mean staying grounded, staying centered, and staying connected to yourself. Because how many of us really can say that we connect with ourselves much, or even the people we love? Because how often do we just spend time on screens, scrolling? If we're not scrolling, we might be Googling something or going to the rabbit hole of something. Well, now it will be talking to AI about something. I feel lucky that I have never been that big of a scroller, but what I do is I can easily be trapped into different rabbit holes where I just keep trying to dig up more information about something. And by doing that, it gives me a sense of achievement almost, because I feel like I'm learning something continuously. But even that in itself, sometimes too much can be unhealthy. So it's just like another self-help loop, I say. So how do we stay in touch with ourselves? How do we stay calm in the age where there is noise everywhere? Especially in this age of AI, it is ever more important that we need to know what our values are, so what we stand for, our identity, and the humanness in us. Knowing more of that humanness will come from connecting with ourselves and our loved ones more, our surrounding and the reality, Mother Earth, because I think it's so easy to forget that we actually live on a planet that's floating in the universe, which is so mystical and so magical and so wonderful. Yet I think too many of us get trapped into our little screens, and we're just sucked in. Our soul is literally sucked into the screen. We can't get out of. The phone has essentially become part of us. It is not a phone. The phone is like an extra finger. Anyway, so let's talk about how I stay calm in the age of noise. And these are the things that really helped me, because I think for the longest time, I had periods of feeling lost, feeling disconnected with myself, sometimes feeling anxious about whatever things, maybe feeling fear about whatever things, just like all the human emotions that we all feel. But one thing that actually really changed my life and shifted my perspective on things is almost losing my life to a tumor 4 years ago, which I will not get into too much in this video, but almost dying in that incident really taught me so much about life too, which just changed my perspectives on many things that I may not have focused on as much before that I do now. Especially, I would say it is the concept of being present and knowing that all you ever have is right now, this second, because you're never going to have the past or the future. Never, you're in the future, you're still in the now. When you were in the past, you were still in the now. But this psychological timeline that we have in our heads, it's so powerful. It makes us feel like we live in our heads a lot. No, we actually live in this reality where there is the present, which is hard to grasp a lot of the times. I really like this book, Japanese Death Poems. I usually read it in bite size, and it is just a generally great book to get in touch with yourself, be closer to the reality of life, which is we're all going to die one day. That brutal truth, this blunt truth, sometimes really slaps us out of our little hamster brains for us to just come back to what matters most. And I just like to read out a really beautiful part that's written by the poet Ichi Mu, where he said the quote broken dream is that illusion whereby we ascribe reality to a transient world. When life ends, the illusion of one's individual being bursts, and with it disappears the symbol of that being, one's name. This really reminds me of a concept that I subscribe to, which is the concept that the only way to live, to cherish this beautiful life, is for the I, the sense of self, to die before death. So not for you to die before death, but for your sense of self, the sense of ego, to die before you actually die. So this is what I would say, really this transcendental phase that you can step into the present. I remember after my surgery of removing the tumor, this book I read really changed my life. It's The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So I meditate with the Muse headband that tracks my meditative state throughout the session, which I find very useful because it tells me whether or not I'm in an active, neutral, or calm state, and it gives me all the data I need. So I know I'm not actually just going crazy or daydreaming during the meditation session. After reading this book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, usually my meditative score, so competitive score, would usually be maybe 60-70% max, sometimes 20%. But right after reading that book, I had 99%. The data was just on the comp say. It was crazy. And I think it's because after having the surgery and almost dying and realizing that the scariest thing is death and all you ever have is the present, and how important it is to appreciate all the little moments in life and be grateful for all of them and be grateful for your loved ones, and also just to be grateful for the mere fact that you're alive, you're still breathing, you can see, you can hear, you can live. Like, that's a wonderful thing. Anyway, sorry, off topic. Coming back. So after almost dying, it just really taught me to pay attention and to be more mindful with what's happening in my life, because I don't want to live a life where I am not aware of what is happening in my head, what's going on around me, and I don't want to live a life where I'm disconnected from myself and I'm unaware of what's happening. And you might think that this is common sense. You might think that, of course, we know what is happening. Of course, we know ourselves. But actually, if you really look in and dive in, a lot of the times you'll be surprised how much we don't know ourselves. I remember when I got the news of me having a life-threatening tumor from the doctor, I was just too scared to even cry. I was just in such a shock. I didn't know how to respond to the news that I could lose my life in 2 weeks. It was crumbling, but also such a shock to your system that sometimes, I think as humans, we forget that we're not actually invincible and that we are flesh and bones and blood, where we have to actually cherish our body and cherish our mind. And if our body goes to waste, this is the only vessel that can carry you through life, that can carry you through your journey, to see the beautiful things, to connect with the people that you love. So it is this huge incident that happened in my life that really taught me to pay attention to really every moment. And so ever since I started paying more attention, I started doing these things that really helped me stay more calm, stay more sane, and stay more connected with myself. The first thing I want to share with you is knowing when to disconnect from the digital devices and from the online world. Because the world is so noisy, and because the noise literally bombards you from every single direction, it's almost like you can never get rid of it because your phone is your extra finger, as we said. So what I started doing is I set myself certain times that I would just not go on social media or not check my phone, that I know would be things that will stress me out, such as checking email too late at night. It might stress me out. Checking Instagram first thing in the morning definitely stresses me out because it just frazzles your brain and flutters your mind. There were times in the past when I would check social media first thing I get up, or I would check my emails and different things first thing I get up. And immediately I just can feel that my mind is frazzled. My mind is now very disoriented, because as soon as you check your social media, Instagram, whatever it might be, you're bombarded by information. Everyone vying for attention. This person is telling you you need to do this. This person is making you feel like you should live like that. This person is telling you life worth living is like that. There's so many different things just vying for your attention. And then there is this huge sense of FOMO that you're like, if I don't watch this video, if I don't see this message, what's going to happen? So I'm going to lose out on something. I'm going to miss out on something. And even though I had very clear to-do list, now inevitably my attention is being taken away by Instagram. But before I checked it, I never really thought about what is happening to these people or to this part of the world. It's very important for you to know when to disconnect and practice cognitive hygiene. So, cognitive hygiene is the daily action of cleaning out thoughts that are not helpful, also used to describe the rest periods for the head or brain. What I started doing is, unless there is something very important that I need to check on Instagram because of a podcast that I'm trying to arrange or a work inquiry, what I usually do is, as soon as I get up, I do something that's good for my mind, body, and spirit. I get up. If I'm going to check something, it might be my to-do list. It does not stress me out, so that's fine. It might stress you out, so maybe you don't want to do that. But I check my to-do list sometimes. I definitely go on the Bible app because it just calms my spirit. So I go on the Bible app, I make my coffee, then I just try to look out into the sun. Well, not directly at the sun, but I try to look out to have my sunlight exposure, as Huberman would say. And I try to just enjoy the moment, appreciate the moment, drink my coffee, look out, and have that moment to myself where I'm really connecting with myself and taking the time in the morning to just be like, take a deep breath. It's a new day where I am still alive on this earth, which is just such a beautiful thing. The morning is where I disconnect from noise. I set a time where I do allow myself to check Instagram or other stuff, which is usually in the afternoons, for example, around 2 p.m. I try to delay it as much as I can because whatever there is, I try to remind myself that there is no such thing that is so important I need to check. And then the second period that I disconnect from noise, the age of digital world noise, is before I sleep. So I really try to never check social media or scroll before I sleep. I just think it is cancerous to my brain and to my mind because I don't want to sleep with all this noise in my head and none of it is actually voluntary. I didn't really register for these things to be put into my head, but because I'm scrolling or I'm on social media, these things just bombard me involuntarily. So this is very important for us to all start practicing and cultivating more. It's just this ability to know when and how to disconnect. And even just cultivating this awareness that you have to disconnect, because we live at an age where everyone is scrolling and there seems to not be an issue with scrolling when everyone is doing it because it's so standardized, it's so normalized. But do we know that this is exactly what the big corporations want us to do? It is literally designed so that you can never take your eyes off the screen. But it is our own responsibility and job then to protect our spirits, to protect our sanity, especially when we're welcoming and inviting a more chaotic world to come. Hopefully less chaotic, but it seems like it's going to be more noisy. The other thing that I do is connecting. So first is disconnecting, and then is practicing to connect with things that are real. What I mean by that is I connect with myself, I connect with my loved ones, and I connect with reality. Reality is beautiful when you actually get out and open your eyes and open your senses to pay attention to it. Sometimes I'd be walking down by the water and just looking at how beautiful the trees are, the color of the sky, the smell of nature. All of that just helps you come back to the present and ground you. So what I do to connect with myself is I really dedicate time where I listen to myself and I let myself express what's inside, everything in the subconscious. So whether that be exercising. So I love going to Pilates and I just roll out on mats and I start following a video to do Pilates. That has really helped me find sanity and cultivate this healthy mind-body connection that I didn't know I was not doing already when I was weightlifting all the time, every single day. But finding Pilates has been magical. So thank you, Nicole, if you ever watch this, because you literally made me fall in love with Pilates for fun. So connecting with my body, as I said, so doing Pilates, connecting with my body, going for a walk is connecting with my body, but also connecting with reality. And I also meditate. So I have my headband, I meditate with, as I said earlier in the video, I journal. So I picked up this journaling habit since I think uni days, which I really have to thank my friend Natalie. She got me into journaling. She got me the first bullet journal, which is very sweet. Ever since then, I only use that particular bullet journal. And what I do is I just put down all the dates of the month, and then I have on the right column the different habits I want to track. So I've got my, have I exercised, what time I wake up, if I ate healthy, and then I just track what are the different things that I've been doing for the month, which has really just helped me stay on track with how my habits are affecting my lifestyle, my mood, and just the general fluctuation of how I work as a person. It's really important because I'm understanding that when I exercise, when I eat well, when I wake up early, I'm usually more happy in the day, usually more sane, much more clarity, and I go on the day. So it's just like a whole ecosystem that I've tried to build to understand myself, which sounds like such a project because you should understand yourself, but really, I don't. And I think a lot of us don't enough, at least. So, connecting with myself, as I said, with journaling and meditating and exercising, reading as well. I really do love reading, whether that be audiobooks or physical books. So I've been reading way less physical books just because it's very heavy to bring around. I usually listen to audiobooks. I'm a big fan of different podcasts because I just love learning about new concepts and trying to connect them because it helps me make sense of the world. And when I make sense of the world more, I also connect with myself more. I find it very interesting to see the connection between different disciplines because, especially when you're into a concept, when you read books across different disciplines, sometimes you find the pattern where they're all talking about the same thing, but just from different angles, which is very interesting. If you're interested in what kind of books I read, I do love a fair share of books into ecology, philosophy, spirituality, communication, finance. I've recently gotten into understanding more about finance. Thanks to Nisha, this YouTuber that I've been watching. She's very good. So, first thing, connecting with myself. Then it is connecting with my loved ones. When the phone is so accessible and when your laptop is so accessible, when the TV is so accessible, it is so easy for us to be distracted by these things than actually connecting with our loved ones. Your partner can be next to you, your parents can be next to you, your friends can be next to you, but you're more drawn to the screen than you are to them. Oftentimes, during dinner, even, you will see that increasingly you're losing connection with each other because everyone is so drawn to the screens rather than asking each other about how their day went. I try to make a rule with my family where whenever we have dinner, we just put down our phones and we have to connect with each other. Just ask questions. Try to get to know what's happening in each other's lives. Don't have the TV on because when we have the TV on, definitely my brother is probably tempted to watch the TV. So no TV on. And I think through time, you just cultivate a much healthier relationship with your family, with your friends, with your partner this way. Needless to say that sometimes you might think that you're being productive. I know people where they feel like by checking their phone, they're being productive. Sometimes I feel like that as well. But when you start doing that as a habit during dinner, you're almost giving yourself an excuse to not connect with the person in front of you. Of course, we live in such busy lives, but then I think we can all afford to put down our phones for at least the moments and precious time we're going to spend with our family. We talked about disconnecting with the online world, connecting with yourself, connecting with the family, and connecting with the reality. So, connecting with the reality is, again, as I said, go for walks when you have food, look at the food, actually mindfully taste how the food tastes, look at the colors of it, look at the person that you're talking to instead of looking at them and thinking about a million other things because you're not really connecting with reality when you're doing that. What I want to express here essentially is try to get yourself out of your head. It is difficult because sometimes I can't get myself out of my head. And when that happens, I try to pause and take in sensation of what all my senses are feeling. So for example, I'm thinking, what am I looking at? What do I hear? What can I feel in my hand? What is the temperature? How do the clothing feel on my body? And by connecting with my senses, that's when I connect with reality and connect with myself better. Third thing that I do, which I think has really helped me, is mindfulness. So I know this word mindfulness might sound very cliche or overly used for a lot of people, which I was a little careful on whether or not I should be using mindfulness in this video, but I think that's the best way to put what I want to say. Call it mindfulness, call it paying attention. Essentially, it is about tuning in to what you're doing and being aware of what you're doing, what you're feeding your mind, body, and spirit. I've been talking about this mind, body, spirit thing for many of my videos. It's getting boring, but I'm just a huge subscriber to this mind, body, spirit concept because I think when you treat your mind, body, spirit well, that is when you start to feel sane, in tune with yourself inside and out. So what do I mean by mindfulness and paying more attention? Pay attention to what we're letting in our mind. So for quite some time, I tried to watch less news because even though I studied international relations at university, I have always been very interested in politics and foreign affairs. But I definitely realized that when I spent a lot of time watching news, I definitely felt this fear in me, this like an inescapable feeling of doom in me where there's so many events outside of my control. Recently, there is the news about the nuclear weapons, and that definitely makes me feel like not very good because I'm like, my life is actually not really in my control because someone can just press a button and the world ends. So I try to be very cautious with what news I watch, read, and how frequent or how much I let myself do that. Protecting my mind from these things. Another thing is social media. Earlier we mentioned about disconnecting from social media, but also now the mindfulness section is where I want to talk about. You also have to be mindful about what you do on the online world. So what you watch on social media, what kind of people you might be following, what kind of opinions they might have that may be affecting your subconscious or affecting how you feel about yourself. You have to be really mindful and aware of just what you let yourself be touched by, what you let yourself have context with. Mindful about the friends around you, the people that you spend time with. There is the famous saying, which is that the 5 closest people to you are the ones that influence you the most. And as I matured with time, I started being more cautious, mindful, and selective with who I spend my time with. Not because there are certain people that I don't like, but more so because your time is limited. And I think we realize that more as we get older in life. You need to be selective and you need to protect your energy and you need to protect your time and sanity from the people that might not be serving you well. So I would say this is the part where you can sit down, just think about, what am I letting into my mind? What am I letting into my surrounding that might be doing me good or not? From there, you can pick things out, put things in, and just see what's the best way that you want to carry your life. So in the mind, and then mindfulness in the body is, I started reading more books about how different foods are affecting me. For example, I read a really good book, I think it's called Ultra Processed People. I will put it somewhere here so then you can look into it. And it talks about why we can't stop eating the things that aren't good for us. I only just found from that book that not only affect the way body feels and the way we process things, but it also affects how we think, which I think is such a dangerous thing because how many of us are unaware that we're putting things in us that's lethal, that's affecting us in such disastrous ways. Being aware with what you put in your body is very important, and just your health in general. Mindful about what you put into your body, that's the diet. Mindful about what you put into your diet, what you eat every single day. Also think about what you feed yourself every single day. I started getting more into health and fitness ever since uni days, but it was really after my surgery, which I survived death, thank God, that I really got into health. So whether it is constant exercising, where I try to go 5-6 days a week, sometimes less with how busy life is. But I really try to be disciplined in this part of my life. But also just paying attention to the different things that I'm eating. What are the nutritious values of things, different foods, and also how they affect the way I feel. And of course, calories, I do care about not eating too much calories. For example, I will think about last night, I had a very cheeky burger that was really good, but I try to not let myself have burgers all the time because I know that it makes me feel lethargic the next day or almost instantly, which I don't like. I like to feel energized when I get up. When I have chicken or fish, I usually wake up with more energy, whereas if I have red meat, it is almost guaranteed that because it takes so much time for your body to process red meat, the next day I feel more groggy and lethargic. Also, paying attention to my gut health. I try to have yogurt with berries every single morning. That has really helped me with just implementing good gut health. We know that our gut health is responsible for 90% of our happiness. More data to come, but at least just doing these little things and just being aware of how different things affect how I feel has really helped me on feeling more in tune with myself. And also, as a woman, if you're a man, you might not want to listen to this part, you might not care. Or if you have a partner, you might want to care. But as a woman, we have our cycle every month. And I really try to not track my cycle, but being more aware of how I feel in different periods of my cycle and just understanding that and not giving myself too much pressure to feel like I have to perform every single week of the month. For example, understanding that during different periods, you might feel more bloated, more moody, more sensitive. What are the periods that you might be more energized? And by doing that, you're just much more in tune with how your body works. And it is such a magical thing to just understand this relationship between you and your body. Also, here I would like to talk about the spirit. So I talked about the mind, body, spirit, for the things that you need to pay attention to and be more mindful. Spirit part would be being mindful about what is your inner motivation? What is the inner North Star that is guiding you towards wanting to do something? On the topic of connecting with yourself, I really like this part from The Art of Living by Epictetus, where he says, know first who you are and what you're capable of. Just as nothing great is created instantly, the same goes for the perfecting of our talents and aptitudes. We are always learning, always growing. It is right to accept challenges. This is how we progress to the next level of intellectual, physical, or moral development. Still, don't kid yourself. If you try to be something or someone you are not, you belittle your true self and end up not developing in those areas that you would have excelled at quite naturally. Within the divine order, we each have our own special calling. Listen to yours and follow it faithfully. I would say this part not only aligns with the part where we should spend time connecting with ourselves, but also the part of being more mindful with what we think about. So in the mind, and being more mindful with what our North Star is at. Essentially, it is understanding who yourself is, truly. This is really about tuning into yourself more and paying more attention, being more mindful to what is constantly being said from your subconscious, what is coming out of you that you're not listening to. That may be telling you something that you haven't been very much in touch with. So, for example, I actually wanted to start my YouTube channel since I was 12 or 13. I remember posted a video when I was 20, and I really only just started posting long form videos consistently recently. This is my 5th video, and I really love it. I have really tried to pay attention to the inner compass that's been guiding me. So my main work is being an international etiquette consultant, and I go to different parts of the world, and I train different companies and individuals where I do feel like I provide value through helping people, coaching people on etiquette, communication, body language, different kind of skills. But before I found this path myself, I was feeling very lost for a very long time, where I didn't know what is the true career that I wanted to step into. What is the thing that represents who I am the most? And it's really through trying trial and error with different things. I also worked as a television host previously to being an etiquette consultant. I didn't like that quite as much because of many different reasons. Maybe one day I'll share. But for a very long time before I found my North Star and before I found this passion that I wake up every day, think about it. The first thing I go to sleep, I'm thinking about it, I'm dreaming about it. Before I found my passion, which I'm very grateful for, I almost felt a little less than adequate when my friends and family would say that I would do a great job in dedicating my life to helping people, because I thought that they only thought that my only valuable trait is being able to help. I was probably thinking to myself, is this the only thing I can do, which is helping people? I didn't see helping people as a big mission. I just saw helping people as in a way of saying I was not good at the other things. Anyway, the most important thing here is pay attention to what your heart is telling you, tuning into that, being more mindful of that. This is what I did to guide me towards work, which I feel very happy about, doing work that I am passionate about, which also help people. So here are the 3 things that I did that really helped me to stay calm in the age of noise. I really hope that this video has helped you as much as it helped me. If you enjoyed this video, you may also enjoy my video on how to cultivate real confidence, where I dive further into what it means to cultivate your mind peace. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe and share it with a loved one, because they might also benefit from it. Until next time, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.